it is to connect with somebody who's really from the same lineage as and from the same generation as Al Hurt, Doc Severinsen, and all the great trumpet players of that time. My guest has been involved with a lot of experimental music, but was also in the studio making great records with Jerry Butler and Curtis Mayfield, Ron Steele, and decorated career, still at it. Bobby Lewis, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Well, thanks for asking me, Jake. It's always a pleasure to talk to wonderful folks like yourself who are constantly promoting jazz. You know, we need all the help we can get, for sure.
Why is jazz? Let me ask you a question, Bobby. Let me ask you a question. Bobby, let me ask you a question. Why has jazz always been underpromoted?
I don't know about that. I always say that country music is about 80% of the music in the United States.
Wow.
You know, years ago, people would say, "Oh, jazz is coming back." I said, "Well, maybe, but to how many people?"
Right.
You know, a very small percentage of people. And one of the main problems is the radio programs or radio stations that present jazz. You know, we have one in Chicago here, WDCB. It's a run by the College of DuPage, and they play jazz all day long, all night long. And you know, there's no places like that. You know
what I'm saying though. Going back to your earliest days, it's always been an underappreciated form. It's been arguably our greatest art form. You know, Jimmy Heath told me, he's like, if it's such great music, and Jimmy Carter's sending us on State Department tours all over the world to play this great music, and we come home and we're just, we're treated like crap. And I guess more to the point, like Oscar Peterson could play the London House, or.
I heard him there a couple of times at the Oscar Peterson at the London House.
Right, and I just want you to talk about how beautiful that time was in terms of not just that jazz was a popular music, but that I believe the patronage, I don't know, man, like they were having steak dinners and stuff, but I'd like to think people were still dancing to that music too.
Well, yeah. I came to Chicago in 1961, Jake,
Yeah.
That's before rock and roll. And in Chicago, there were countless number of jazz clubs and radio stations that would play jazz. And, a lot more people, I think, knew about jazz then. And when rock and roll came in, maybe 60% of these jazz clubs went under.
Right.
Just because of rock and roll and what the people wanted, what the popular music was, and what everybody... I started at Andy's Jazz Club on Fridays at 5 o'clock in 1978.
Wow.
Man, it was big rush to start with. And then when, later on there was just some rock clubs opened and they all kind of left the jazz club, And I thought, what the hell? They loved it here before, but what changed that, But it's when I was here in Chicago in the 60s, it was just magnificent. The became a studio recording musician, and proceeded to do 8,000 sessions, TV, radio commercials, and so on and so forth. But
this is so great because this is really important because I want to focus like a laser on this. Like I recognize that you sang for your supper in the studios doing jingles and studio dates, and that's especially early on. But I want to know, for you, were you trying to, it would have been a daunting task to try to emulate your peers of, Carmel Jones and, Lee Morgan and Freddie Hubbard. Were you in a Dixieland bag in a live setting, or were you going to the bop cool sessions?
Well, I'll tell you what, it was a progression.
Yeah.
I started out playing, tunes and dances and stuff when I was a kid and blah, blah, all that kind of stuff. And then proceeded to play big band stuff when I was in college and, more jazz clubs. And it was, I went to the University of Wisconsin in Madison in the 50s. And there was a big Dixieland kind of drag movement there.
Really?
A lot of
Really?
we were playing
Wow.
all that stuff,
Wow.
And Jack Teagarden used to come in, the Dukes of Dixieland, and we'd sit in with them and play with them and all that stuff.
Wait a minute. You need to stop. I need you to tell me about Jack Teagarden. This is legendary.
I played with Jack.
I know. No, I mean, what was, because, I did for a hot minute, I was hired to do some interviews for a Stan Getz documentary that sadly I don't think will ever see the light of day. And
Yeah.
Stan was well underway in his career in the 50s, but you got to Teagarden. What was that cat all about? Because Stan, for better or for worse, was on the road with that cat at 16, 200, 340 days a year.
Yeah. Well, we didn't work that much. I didn't work that much. He had weeks off sometimes.
Sure, but I mean, like, you played with him. That's legendary.
But for a year, yeah, and then it got work out real thin in the summer of '64, or '63 it was, and I could not afford to not get paid for 5 weeks,
Right.
and so I had to do something. So I just decided to settle in Chicago,
Did you?
You kind of earn a reputation with guys, and they finally know what you can do, and you get gigs, and that's how that whole thing transpires, And then you build a reputation for yourself, and then the phone rings.
You, with Teagarden, when you left the head of the tune, could you take as many bars as you wanted? Did you guys really stretch out a lot?
No, not really. It was, they played pretty much the same form, same tunes. Those guys played the same choruses every night.
Right.
I couldn't even remember what I did last night, Sometimes not even wanted to, But, but anyway, I didn't fall in that mode, but it was pretty predictable. Before I went with Jack, I heard the band with Don Goldie on it. In fact, at the London House.
Wow.
Two nights in a row, and they played the same tune at the same time, the same choruses, both nights. I thought, haven't I been here before? But I guess this is what I'm going to be up with, But
so tell me, what was the first really unpredictable improvisational group you got with when you moved to Chicago? I don't care if you were playing for the Door or no money at all. What was that band?
The thing about it is, once you started to do studio recording music, or establish yourself as a player in that field, it became easier to live. A lot of times we played big band gigs for like $6,
right,
or $10. A good night was $12, But
that's awesome.
But that's what our fun was. We didn't need to depend on jazz to, pay the rent, So we could have the fun with jazz and create and do all that kind of stuff. And that's how several of my groups started with that,
Because when I interviewed Ahmad Jamal, he said that the first four cats were you ever affiliated with Chess Records?
Sure, I played a lot of their sessions.
Can you talk about how you connected with Chess, and then ultimately were you on some of the early R&B sessions they put out?
No, not the early ones. It wasn't until 64, 65, 60, the later 60s that I started doing a lot of record dates, Curtis Mayfield and all that, the R&B big movement that they had here, Donny Hathaway, all these great artists like that we had a chance to record with, But it was being called by these studios or these producers. It's like I said, you establish a reputation, and you get people talk about, yeah, get this guy, and so on. That's how I got a lot of those calls. I told people I never called one producer once for work.
What was the name of there was Radio Registry in New York. What was the name of it in Chicago?
I'm not familiar with that.
Well, no, I mean you would get calls from a service to say, hey, these are the gigs.
Oh, no. It was just word got around. That's the way it was. There was nothing like that, It's people knew about you.
Right, but I mean, like you would get your assignments the night before. I mean, I've talked to all the studio cats, and if Suds and Duds commercial, they need you at 2:00 here. Like, would you get you'd have your whole week laid out, or would you get it when would you get your?
Sometimes the calls were that evening, or sometimes the calls were even, can you make it down here in an hour? Calls like that. But
well, can you share a time? Yeah.
Generally, it was planned out ahead, several days or so on.
Can you talk about an early seminal session when you still really weren't established? You got the call, and it was that sort of gateway into. How'd you get into chess?
Well, I'm not quite sure how that all happened or who the producers were. That was so long ago that I don't recall that. But I did a lot with, do you know the American Breed, who they were, the Bend Me, Shape Me?
I can't believe you just dropped that name. Those cats, yeah, absolutely, sir. Go ahead.
They were such a great group, and I was on all their records. There was one time where I said, can somebody put a real high ending on this tune, and there's 3 trumpet players, and the other 2 declined. I said, I'll do it. And it goes way up into Maynard's range almost. I don't know how that transpired, but they said, oh, that was such a great hit, because of you.
I just want to read you this quote from an interview I did with a drummer from Chicago, Ross Salamone. He said, Danny Serafin and I went to high school together and grew up in the same neighborhood. In high school, my band used to play the sock hop. Jim Guercio played bass in the band, and Larry Lynn played guitar. There were 4 drummers in that one neighborhood. Bobby Ruffino, who played in a group called The Mob, and then Jim...
I have a friend who played with The Mob.
No, I want the whole story, but then he says Jim Michalak, who was the original drummer in the American Breed. Last name was Michalak, Michalak. Anyway.
He must have been before they recorded, because he wasn't on these.
I want to know, with The Mob, for instance, where was that recording studio? And they loved your high hits, even though you were like, I have no idea what I'm playing.
I don't know. Piano player I worked with forever, Jim Ryan, played with The Mob.
Wow.
Yeah. He had some pretty wild stories to tell about it, but I don't remember them. But he said it was a pretty far out group.
That is, what, in your memory of them, what made them such a great band? I'm fascinated because they certainly weren't playing, odd times music, or they were. It was kind of, was it R&B and. Go ahead.
The American Breed?
Yeah.
Are you talking about the American
Breed? The American Breed, yeah.
I'll tell you why I liked them so much. Their time was impeccable.
Wow.
The way they swung their ass off, that group, and you get that kind of time and feel going, man, and it was a great feeling group. And the way they recorded it, in fact, Bruce Wedeen was an engineer. Bruce Wedeen became Quincy Jones' top engineer in L.A.
Really?
Recorded all Michael Jackson stuff. Bruce Wedeen was the engineer on that. And let's see, I forgot what I was talking about. But and the way we recorded it was not through headphones. They had the speakers with American Breed playing right at us.
Dude, I cannot believe you just said that.
We recorded right hearing them live without headphones on. And that's why all that music sounds so good, too.
So you're telling me when you recorded, they were playing basically the basic tracks and blasting them through PAs to you?
Yeah, right. They had recorded their tracks.
That was a certain kind of recording style that was not in the mainstream, but highly effective. I can't believe. That was probably the only time that happened, though, right?
It was the only time we ever recorded like that.
That's incredible. And you've been on how many recording sessions? It's on 7,500, and that's the only time.
Yeah, 8,000. That was a 1990s figure. At 7,500, so I figured I have.
Oh my God!
Maybe a few hundred more, but anyway.
That's great.
Yeah, it was. I'm telling you, Jake, we were playing sometimes 5-6 sessions a day. You know, could be 30 or 40 in a month.
I mean, you were absolutely. You were cleaning up, dude. It's unbelievable. So, tell me about how you. When you first started to connect with Ron Steele?
Well, Ron was one of the early guitar players in the recording studios. He was one of the top guys too.
Sure.
You know, and everybody called Ron Steele, Pat Ferrari, and some of the guitarists that could do it all.
Pat Ferrari, dude. Is that cat still around?
Pardon me?
Is Pat Ferrari still around?
He and his wife, I haven't heard that he passed. We're in assisted living, one of those retirement homes, I should say. Retirement homes.
Sure. No, I just, he could do it all. He was like a Tommy Tedesco cat. Ron Steele was like that too, man.
Both of them, yeah. Both of them were out. All the time I'd see Ron, and of course you'd become friends. Hi, that kind of thing. Hi, see you later, man,
Yeah, man.
Good to see you again, Baba, but not really knowing each other all that well, except musically,
Well, and that actually is more important than anything else, I think.
Yeah, well, it was seeing the same guys all the time, and these are the guys that could, read the music down that just got in front of them and play it once or twice and record it, and you're out of here, And that's the kind of musicians that were studio musicians, I was able to do the same thing,
So I want to know, because this is like the wrecking crew of Chicago.
Yeah, I guess you could call it that.
Well, I mean, it was like the same. You're talking like early mid '60s. Yeah, it was the transition period. You found yourself being able to cross over a lot of the guys that came in. The original Wrecking Crew guys could play jazz, but they hated rock music, so they were kind of like. Obsolete almost, and at least in LA. And I wonder if you could talk a little bit about how you were successful at fitting into, because when you started in Chicago, everything was pretty much acoustic. Nothing had plugged in yet. And then by 64, 65, the American Breed era, like it was beginning, but you played a lot of acoustic music. So how did you adjust from that to rock music?
Well, I always could play different kinds of music. I didn't, I could play polkas. I could play avant-garde even.
Wow.
I was that maneuverable.
Malleable, yeah, malleable.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
About invention or creativity, I'm fortunate to have that kind of makeup with what I do,
Sure.
So one thing was, it's 1961 when I came here, I always say that, a lot of these guys were used to playing big band stuff and like that, but I understood rock music. I always like to say it. It went from da 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 to da da da.
Yeah, dude, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They just moved the long note and the short note around, you know.
So who else was in the? Who, yeah, go.
That,
Yeah,
you know,
please tell me about that. Yeah.
The other thing, Jake, is that I got here. Johnny Howe, Warren Kemp, some of those great guys were playing flugelhorns, Art Hoyle, and I got into playing the flugelhorn. I had played it.
This is so epic, dude.
But playing the flugelhorn was really my forte. You know, I would play shit out of that because of the sound of it. You know.
Oh my God, it's incredible.
The sound of the flugelhorn, you know. So that part of it was part of it too.
Let me ask you, who was Ferrari, Steele, yourself? Who were the first call studio cats at that time? Like the rhythm, who were the bass players or the? I mean, because I've interviewed.
Jim Atlas was one of them. Johnny Frigo was one who played a lot of that stuff.
Wow, who? Johnny Frieger?
Pardon me?
What was his last name? Johnny what?
Johnny Frigo.
Frigo, because Jim Atlas was a sick bass player. I know that.
Yeah, Jim Atlas did a lot of stuff, and let's see, Mel Schmidt was one of the players, one of the early players. I can't recall.
Who was the horn section?
Pardon me?
Who was in the horn section besides you?
Well, Johnny Howe, Warren Kime, Rudy Stauber was one of the main players, and Joe Burnett was here.
Wow.
And then some of the younger guys started to come in. I was one of them, and Dick Judson was another one that played some of that stuff. And you know, one of the reasons was the Chicago Symphony Orchestra here. Bud Herseth was a principal trumpet player.
Sure.
I loved his playing. He was a super player. He was in the Chicago Symphony Orchestra for 54 years as a principal trumpet player. And he was another reason why I stayed in Chicago, because, wow, getting a chance to play with him in the Chicago Symphony Orchestra was, wow, you know, one of those great moments, you know. And Johnny Howe was another one. He played with Woody Herman's band and Charlie Barnett's band. He was in a trumpet section with Maynard Ferguson and Al Porcino, and Doc Severinsen was even in there, you know.
Yeah.
And those in that section. So he was another mentor of mine that was one of the reasons I stayed in Chicago. You know.
Can you talk about what a mentor means to you? Part of my show is about leadership. So how was it? They weren't. You already had the rudiments, but how were they? Were they mentors just because they made themselves? Maybe they put themselves out there every night and made themselves vulnerable.
Well, with both of those guys, all you had to do was sit next to them or sit aside of them and listen to them play,
right?
And that was your lesson. if you paid attention,
right.
And if you did, wow, that's how it's supposed to go, you know. And I told Johnny Howe too. I said, man, you go anywhere you want to with the lead trumpet part. I'll be right on your tail. You know, I say I'll be the best second trumpet player you ever had, man. You know, that's the way we do it. You know, and those guys liked my attitude, you know, the way I played and stuff like that, and you know, the fun part of it, having an enjoyment out of it.
Yeah, having a ball, man.
I mean, what the hell can you say?
No, I just love your attitude, man. I love it.
I love living, you know.
You know, were you somebody that? I mean, I know you were in the studios and tired, and you know, raising a family. But I mean, were you into going to the Plug Nickel to see Miles and Freddie and those cats?
I did. I saw that Plug Nickel session, and
you did, right? I knew you were going to say that, dude. You saw the epic session.
I was there twice.
Oh my God! I can't believe this, dude.
Well, you know what, Jake? It was funny that I had heard Miles before, and that particular engagement, I thought Miles is playing strange, kind of strange. I'm not sure. No, it was. I'm not sure. I'm hearing what I'm hearing.
Right.
That's like what I'm hearing, And I went back there another night to one was what I had heard before was not so, but the same thing kind of happened. I thought maybe I didn't understand Miles at the time. I don't know.
I think it's profound. Of course you didn't. Who would have, even you being a head musician, you were like hearing that was new music, not new music, but it was the way this form, it was new song form, really.
Well, that's possibly true, because I heard Art Farmer and all those guys at the Jazz Showcase.
Right.
I've been telling you, Clark Terry, holy smokes, those guys were something. And, and really enjoying that. And I thought, now, why didn't I enjoy Miles that way? I should have, probably.
Well, I mean, and it's funny because, for people, basically what was happening at those sessions, correct me if I'm wrong, is that essentially it was one of the first times, if not the first time, that a band would play through the tune, play the head of the tune, and then they'd go out, and you might not even know what tune it was, but then they'd go out for 20 minutes and then come back in all collectively together.
Well, so that certainly, can happen if you don't understand what they're trying to do,
But you just weren't into the sound either. Yeah,
that way.
Right. You just you weren't digging it. You weren't like, I'm always wondering, like, you played in so much experimental musical settings, like Woody Shaw, Kenny Durham. Did you cross paths with these cats, or was like the bop scene not really your scene?
Well, I'm not quite sure. I understood the way guys played bop. Now, I don't say.
I get it. No, I want you to go riff on this. Yeah,
the way they played.
Right.
Not that they played it. I mean, when I heard Clifford Brown for the first few times, I had to concentrate or re-listen to it to make sure I, understood what he was doing, because Clifford Brown was the ultimate, as far as I was concerned, about
absolutely
as trumpet playing. If you analyze Clifford Brown's stuff, you got your lesson right there.
Right.
So how to play it, But yeah, it's hard to put yourself in somebody else's mind about playing that way, I mean, everybody plays the way they play, And I guess I like these guys, but didn't really or couldn't play like them,
Sure. No, I really respect the way you articulated that. It was definitely more of it was just their own way of playing. Did you?
Well, I respect the way they play and the way they think, and all that. And everybody's different.
No, it's all about respect. Yeah, respect is it.
Music and plays music the way they feel it. And, you can't feel the same way that somebody else feels.
That's right.
About that. So you establish yourself as the way you are, and who you are. I mean, one of my earliest influences was Bobby Hackett and his beautiful playing,
Wow.
I mean, Bobby Hackett was loved by all players. Somebody asked Miles once if he listened to Bix Spiderback.
Yeah.
Miles says, "No, man, I don't listen to Bix. I listen to Bobby Hackett."
Holy cow, man. Are you kidding me?
Now, let me finish it.
Yeah.
He said, "I listen to Bobby Hackett. He listened to Bix."
Whoa.
Isn't that a compliment?
Whoa,
Yeah,
dude.
Wait, he played all of it.
Wait, you heard that secondhand? You didn't hear that from Miles himself, did you?
I don't know where that came from,
Wow.
but
Bobby Hackett, man, so was there would you say like in those early, not specific sessions, but just early on, when would you guys hit as at the same time as the whole band? Obviously, through the years, overdubbing has just become everything, and it for better in my mind, for worse. But I just got photos of Lalo Schifrin dates from L.A. There's 40 pieces there.
Yeah.
Like, can you talk about the magic of how the early on a lot of those sessions everybody did hit at the same time, and most times it was a first take.
Well, a lot of those things were like that, overdubbing and stuff. I have 14 CDs out of my own stuff, and there's none are overdubbed on that.
Wow.
None of it. It's all playing, and there's 133 tracks, and they're all. In fact, I'm going to send you a whole bunch of them if you like.
Please, yeah.
Because there's a wealth of great playing there. I'm not talking about myself, but the musicians and the music itself. There's a lot of just great music there, and no overdubbing. No.
Can you just talk to the audience about the magic of hitting at the same time collectively, what that does for the pulse and the groove of the music, no matter what kind of music it is?
Well, it's the feel you get of hearing and the vibes you get of a rhythm section right around you. You feel the drums. You hear the drums. You feel the drums. The bass the same, and the piano, and what they're playing like, and you get a rhythm section that's really cooking and playing and stuff, and you're skating on top of that. Man, I'm telling you, there's nothing that feels like that, and it's just incredible feeling you get from the vibes of playing live instead of with, like the recording sessions and overdubbing and stuff. I mean, it's a job, kind of. You're having fun, but
come on, dude.
More of a job than the enlightenment you get out of playing with each other.
The technology has afforded us to spend much more time obsessing over small little things. You guys didn't really have the time to do it. You wanted to get to that feeling, and after that, it was on to the next session.
Yeah, well, basically, my latest CD that I recorded 4 of my tunes, there's very few studios around like the old ones, where you got the big room and all that kind of stuff. But there was one rock and roll kind of studio that this engineer that I use was able to record there. So I recorded there, and these people that set this up, it's basically a rock and roll studio, but the room is there. And these people that set up, we recorded 4 tunes in 2.5 hours, and they couldn't believe it.
Right.
So, these rock and roll groups, they spend 4 hours on one tune,
It's ridiculous. No, I mean, it's just...
It's like that,
right.
Just do it.
But it's just also like, the music just sounds fresh,
Well, that's it. It's the freshness. Absolutely, you're right about that.
Can you talk about, he left us this year, I believe, but your relationship or how you feel about Tony Bennett?
Well, I was a personal friend with Tony. I played with him for 15 years when he came into Chicago. I was his his lead trumpet player. And I knew Tony very well. In fact, we used to do a little weed together.
Oh, my. Wait, you used to puff a little bit?
Oh, yeah. Sure.
Oh,
yeah.
my God. I am loving this. You just made my day, dude. It was not having the break. You made my day, man.
Tony was like that. He'd say, Bobby, he'll call me up and say, anything you can bring? I'll be right there. I'll be there, Tony.
Oh, man.
Well, he was Tony Bennett, and I played for Peggy Lee all the time.
Sure.
Too. She was a personal friend as well.
Wow.
And, I was musical conductor for a couple of her shows, musical director. And, knowing these wonderful people and being friends, there's nothing like it, knowing that they're just real, honest to God, great people.
Right, exactly.
With all this talent.
Right, all the still never losing that integrity of soul, even if you become quote unquote famous or super successful, just really good people.
Yeah, absolutely. So I got a bunch of stories. Some of them I can't tell.
Well, no, tell me. I mean, as Tony was incredibly supportive. I just found this Carnegie Hall concert. He had Candido on there, and he's promoting Afro-Cuban music. I mean, him and Sinatra were just like the biggest jazz heads, man.
Well, yeah. Tony was all about that, I played one show with Tony Bennett and Lena Horne. It was just an incredible show.
Whoa. Whoa. Where was that?
Well, it was at the Opera House in Chicago. I think maybe it was at Symphony Center. I'm not sure. I think it was the Opera House, yeah.
Well, no, I was going to say, my dear friend, I'm so excited to ask you about him. I've met him in person in Marin County. I've done a bunch of interviews with him. Is Harold Jones.
Oh, yeah, I knew Harold, yeah.
Did you know Harold before he got with Tony, like when he was in Chicago or when he was with Basie?
Well, he was with Count Basie's band, too.
Right, no, I know.
I knew him before Count Basie's band. I didn't see him that much afterwards, but...
Wait a minute, you knew him before? I need you to talk about this. How you'd run into him, like playing, how would you know him?
Let's see. I'm not quite sure I remember that.
Because he was playing, I've interviewed him a bunch, and he was playing he was playing high school dances with Sun Ra. This is way before the orchestra, but just Sun Ra. They were playing straight ahead jazz tunes, and that was in the late 50s. That was before you even got to Chicago.
Wow. Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Some of those guys I didn't know, till after I was here.
Did you? The other cat I wanted to ask you about was I know Mancini spent a lot of time in Chicago.
Well, I played for him twice. Well, the first time I was a trumpet soloist, and the second time I was just in the band. But yeah, he was fun to work with,
Absolutely. Yeah, you were. Who was going to say? With did you work with guys like Richard Evans?
Yeah, I played several sessions with Richard Evans when he was producing. I forget who he was producing, but yeah, he was. Art Hoyle and I used to play on Richard Evans sessions. Do you know who Art Hoyle is, don't you?
No.
You don't?
I don't.
Art Hoyle, one of the great jazz players in Chicago, he played with Sun Ra.
Is he still with us?
No, Art passed.
He played with Sun Ra.
Yeah.
But I mean, like in the orchestra, or like when he was still playing mainstream music?
I think it was before that, before the orchestra, yeah.
Did you, a couple things. Have you had a chance to, I'm very close with a great drummer down in New Orleans, Johnny Vidakovich, and he played a lot with Al Hurt, and they'd play at Tulane Stadium at halftime for the Saints games, which was classic. But did you get a chance, I know you recorded with Al, have you had a chance to go to New Orleans and play, and what do you think of that city?
Well, you know what? I was only there once, and
too busy.
I was there to see a trumpet player named Emery Thompson who had moved down there, and we had fun. He was playing at the Blue Room of the Roosevelt Hotel there, and there was pre-Mardi Gras, and I had fun with him. We went to and sat in at a black funeral. He says, "Yeah, I'll take you to a black funeral. We'll join."
That is awesome. That is awesome.
He says, I said, "I don't have a horn." He says, "I'll bring one for you. Usually, when they come by, we'll join them and then drop out."
That
says,
is awesome.
I have that experience, so that was cool,
dude. That's all you needed to have,
Well, that was it, And the other kind of joy I had was seeing a guy with a card table with all these brandy snifter glasses.
Sure.
Of different sizes, some big, and he would wet them and make them sound, make them spin and make a sound. And he had a whole thing up there, and he played like that. He played that on this glass, a breaker.
Like eyeglass kind of thing?
No, not like brandy snifter glass.
Oh, totally. He would actually play like mallets on it or like little sticks.
No, with his fingers around the rim. He'd wet his fingers, and if you put your finger around the rim of those, it makes a sound. It makes a big sound.
Whoa.
The way you get a sound out of spinning your finger in a glass?
Sure.
That's what it was. And this guy, I'm telling you, I had never heard anything like that. But I was kind of disappointed with the music that I heard. Preservation Hall, they played 20 minutes of tired music and then kicked everybody out. Next group.
Oh, my God, dude. I hate that shit.
They charged a lot of money for just 20 minutes. And these guys look bored to death. Oh, Jesus,
Come on, man. So.
But I got one great story.
Please, man, hit me. Hit me.
The Preservation Hall Band was in Chicago one time at Ravinia, and during that time, they recorded a commercial for one of the producers. So a couple of weeks later, this producer calls me. He says, "We need to replace some bars with a trumpet player." He says he's an 80-year-old black trumpet player from New Orleans. Can you do that? I said, "Well, I'll come there. I probably can." I says, "You play it for me, and I'll see what I can imitate." So I did that. This is the Preservation Hall trumpet player. He said, "Play it for me. Let me see what see what he was doing and stuff." And I said, "Okay, let me do it." And after I finished, he said, "How did you do that? You sound just like him." I said, "Well, that's why I do studio work, because I can do that."
Wow.
I had to play like Al Hurt one time on one of those kind of things, a viewing commercial.
Wow.
It's like all that, that we were talking about before, but, that kind of stuff.
Tell me what you still have left to do. What are you still learning about at this point, musically or about life?
Well, let me relate a thing that Dizzy Gillespie said.
Sure.
He said, this is about the trumpet. He says, some days you pick the horn up and put it to your chops, and it feels pretty good, and you win. He says, some days you put it up there and nothing happens, you can't get anything done, and the horn wins. He says, go through life, you win, the horn wins, and in the end you die, and the horn wins.
You are making my day,
so
man.
That's what that damn trumpet is, Sometimes it says hello and sometimes it says goodbye,
Right. Ultimately, it's going to have the final say, but still.
But, just enjoy the enjoyment I get out of just playing and picking that up the horn, you know, and the flugelhorn, and I got a bunch of horns I play them all, you know. But that's what I like to do, and you know, until I'm decomposing, you can. I'll be playing my horn.
Dude, you're gonna be getting more wins. Is what you're gonna win over the horn a lot.
Yeah, right. And still a lot to learn about that horn and music and everything else, you know. So you keep your mind open, keep your brain fresh, and hopefully, and let it all sink in and have fun with it.
Bobby Lewis, it was an absolute honor to connect with you, man. We definitely should do another interview down the road.
Jake, I'd love to, man. You're great. It's wonderful talking with you about you know, that you have so much experience in history and all that stuff, and shoot names at me. And
I know. I think I got your brain going.
I love it. It's just wonderful. So
yeah, man.
You keep on keeping on, my friend, and you know, you're much appreciated. You know.
Yeah, much love, Bobby. Thank you so much, brother.
Back to you, Jake, and thanks for this interview.
Always, brother. Talk to you soon, man.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.